Okay, hey everybody. Nick Livingston here with the Honeit podcast. I'm so excited to introduce you to this week's guest, Lisa Keigley. We've been working together for a couple of years now, and Lisa is the founder and CEO of 5-Star Recruitment, a really innovative recruiting firm. But today we'll just start to unpack a little bit about Lisa's background in recruitment, how she stands out in her firm, how they do things a little bit differently, and get Lisa's take on the current state of recruitment and talent acquisition. Obviously, interesting times we're in, but everybody, welcome Lisa.
Hi, thank you so much.
Awesome. Lisa, maybe you could tell us just a little bit high level, like how did you fall into this interesting profession that is recruitment? Did you stumble into it? Talk to us a little bit about the genesis, and then love to dig into, your company, 5-Star.
Okay. Well, kind of an accident. My background is when I was in college, worked at IBM, going to school full time, working full time, and my degree was electrical engineering technology, and so had that IT engineering. Ended up getting a bachelor's too in the organizational behavioral management. And then shortly after college went and I was a sales engineer, I decided I liked the selling part of it instead of the technology, even though I wanted a mixture of both. So I was a sales engineer, the only sales engineer, female sales engineer, industrial sales engineer from Mettler Toledo. And then after a few years with that, I decided that I was a mom and I stayed home, had a sick child. He had cancer. So stayed at home off and on for 10 years, meaning I did different things, but primarily, taking care of my kids for those 10 years. So then when I decided they were teenagers, I was ready to get back in the workforce. A ex-family member had a recruiting firm, and she's like, "Can you help me recruit for engineering and IT since you know that space?" I'm like, recruiting doesn't sound fun, but let me try it. But I think that recruiting has, so it's similar. There's so many parts of it that I could speak the talk as far as the technology part of it, but it still was the selling part of it. So I felt like I got to use both skills. So I actually enjoyed it and loved it. So
Awesome. Family member who was in it. And you're like, what is the recruiting? What are you talking about? And then sure enough, and then I love that you were a practitioner first too. I mean, you were speaking the language and knew the ins and outs of the technology and the industry speak and all that. And then did that become then your niche at 5-Star? Maybe talk a little about how did you decide, I can do this. I'm building something, launching my own firm. When did that happen?
So it was an ex-family member. And so it was personal reasons. I was commission only, but personal reasons it kind of fell apart. And so I'm like, well, what do I do? I can do this. So I started my own business in 2 days. I just thought I'd be an independent recruiter. So I started it in 2 days and had an agreement that I'm like, can I have just one client, to move forward with? So we made some agreeable terms and moved forward. And just launched it with no business plan, nothing. Just the next day I started the business, not really knowing. I had owned businesses before, but not really knowing how to start the recruitment business. But it just kept growing. I thought I was going to be an independent recruiter, but I realized what I really enjoy is team. And so the job kept coming in and the workload it was too much for me. So I slowly hired, I think the first year I hired 2 or 3 people. And then it just kept every year after that kept doubling or sometimes tripling in size. So it's been an adventure. It's been fun. And I've learned a lot. But we're going on be our 10 years in January. So
10 years. Wow. Congratulations. Yeah, it's been fun. We've seen your growth too, just in terms of adding users and getting everybody hands-on with Honeit. But tell us a little bit about your niche. Like what types of roles, what types of clients, what types of industries are you focused on or supporting?
So originally, my focus was engineering and IT just because I really enjoyed that. But then the clients we did so well in those areas, they came and like, can you help us with this? Can you help us with that? So we kept growing. And then everyone kept saying, well, you have to have a niche. You have to be, in one industry or one market or one. And what I realized, someone had kind of a mentor had helped me decide that like our niche is our clients. So we're client focused. So everyone told me we can't do that, and I did. So every need that that client has, so it's almost like an extension of their talent acquisition team, but it's any need. So they just kept coming to us. Well, what about we can't? They even asked us like we can't supply. We have the sales, but we can't keep up with the product because we don't have the machinists. Can you help us with machinists? I'm like, well, I don't know what we're doing, but we'll try it. So we do anything. Yeah, we've done when we use that same model that we recruit for machinists to C-level. So we do anything and everything in between. Most of our companies are global manufacturers, but we do have some in different markets, but we use the same philosophy. And then we use a team approach. So it's not just one recruiter working one role. You have a team of people. And then that that team gets to know the client inside and out. And so they might only have contact with one like account manager so that they're not, contacting 5 or 6 different recruiters, but they have different people behind the scenes working on those roles and recruiting for them. So what's neat about it is we get to know them so much that we get excited. We've had communications. They've flown us out to different plants. We've on our own gone to different plants. We see the people, we meet the hiring managers, we meet HR, and we have such a relationship that we built up with them that we're like, we not only know their requirements and their skill sets, but we also know like, oh, that person would be a great culture fit for them, or oh, that chemistry with the hiring manager would be perfect. This personality matches that personality. So again, I know it's not just a plug for Honeit, but that I think helps them see Honeit lets the hiring manager or HR realize what we see in a candidate by hearing some of the responses. So for us, Honeit has been awesome tool. But I think, the areas that we really feel like we already we're strong in is getting to know, the client and their not only, like I said, the culture, but the chemistry of hiring managers and different things. Honeit has allowed us to help match up that skills that we think we have and we bring to the table, but then they get to see it. And then they get to listen at any time. If they want to listen at 11 o'clock at night or 5 in the morning, they can hear some of those responses. So.
Awesome. No, thank you for the shout out. But and that's also too, you're kind of talking about the kind of the hard and soft skills that you're assessing too, because it's not just, do they have the particular domain skills for the role? Do they fit the environment and the personalities and some of that other soft stuff that as you get to know your client better, you start to know the dynamics of this team versus this hiring manager, et cetera. And I think that also that you're right, like really embedding yourself. We're starting to see a little bit more of that with either RPO or embedded recruitment, where you might even have logins to your clients and you're reaching out with their logo and branding when you're reaching. So I don't know if do you do embedded where you,
We haven't done, we've done a little bit just when they had like a talent acquisition. And then we did a different fee structure temporarily, like out for maternity leave for several months. And they brought us in and, and I say we're almost like an RPO anyway. But we do, our agreement, our typical agreement is still that of a regular recruiting service agreement instead of the RPO, but it's almost like that extension of them. And we've done it before for sure, where they're like, we don't care. We just need to fill this. And we'd rather have you do it instead of bringing a contractor for a short period of time, which we also do contractors. But they're just like, you already know us, the hiring managers, here's the passwords, can you do this? So we've done both before, but yeah.
And knowing that story, I mean, the more you know the client or the clients you support intimately, like the better you can represent them, the questions you can answer, your team can answer, right? Versus defer to later in the process. You can actually pitch the company, pitch the job probably better than other recruiters who may not have this.
Yeah. And we authentically get excited about it because you're there. They've flown us to the plants. We've gone on our own to different plants. We got to know, and that trust and the relationship has built up on both sides. So we both have that rapport. There's examples like the CHRO will call and she's like, you never push back, but I'm going to reconsider this candidate because you push back. And then they'll always say, I'm so glad, because if Lisa takes that time to really push a candidate that they kind of passed on or they didn't see some of the skills. So it's that trust that we've built up over the years. And then they all love the Honeit tool. So that's neat too.
No, nice. Tell maybe talk a little bit about what are you seeing in the market? So, I mean, we have an interesting lens on kind of our customers and recruiters of different, whether they're executive search firms or staffing agencies or RPO companies or internal TA teams we work with through Honeit. But what are you seeing out there? What are you seeing around candidates? What are you seeing around clients? Is hiring slowing down? Is it picking back up again? What's your take on kind of
Well, we
hiring?
saw, yeah, so we saw a huge change at the end of last summer. It was chaos before then. I mean, we couldn't, people, candidates were asking for outrageous salaries and clients had to give in because they needed these positions filled. And it was definitely a candidate market. The openings and the urgency and like everything was just, they were ready. They had the offer letters ready to sign on site because they didn't want to delay and lose a candidate. And then we saw a big shift at the end of last summer. We had a couple of our top clients go on a hiring pause, not necessarily a freeze. Come to find out, one of them did it because they were in the middle of being acquired. And so it made us a little nervous. And I had just hired two recruiters from a top global recruiting company. And so I was like a little nervous at first, but new clients we've never really tried to sell much and we've grown organically. But they kept coming to us, different new clients were coming to us in that period of time. And then we found out that former client that was on a hiring pause came back. And so Q2 is really where they all told us things are going to ramp back up. And so we started to see that. And definitely we noticed the projection even for the next, it's still in Q2, but maybe the end of Q2, kind of May, even more roles opening up. And like I said, we keep getting new clients. So that's exciting as well.
There you go.
So
Do you have an inbound? You have like an inbound engine for that? Do you have like a sales and marketing team at 5 Star, or it's kind of word of mouth? Wow, that's fantastic.
It's
Yeah,
all
we're seeing a lot of anytime a company pauses, to your point, there's this like downstream ripple effect of like, okay, agencies don't have recs, they may let go internal recruiters, but then as soon as, oh, let's hire them, you got to then either figure out, do you bring the recruiters back, rehire the folks, or do you work with external? Like, there's just interesting delay in terms of when pauses happen and how that affects the whole downstream recruiting flow. But great to hear that you've got a good inbound and word of mouth.
I guess too, the difference we did see is the intensity of the jobs, meaning like these are hard to fill roles that we're getting. So I think they're trying to, on their own still place those candidates that they have the bandwidth to recruit for, but those really hard. So even though we have a steady inflow, it's definitely those extremely hard to fill roles, those little, they need skill sets that aren't just out there. And so we're having to dig deeper. But like I feel like another gift in our area is we're hunters. We don't spend a lot of money on advertising. We go out and then we dig and we hunt and we look for the perfect candidate. So I think part of it is, just that's our niche anyway, is to dig for those hard to fill roles. But it's more pronounced than it ever was before as far as candidate or the type of roles we're filling. They don't just, you don't fill them in a day or a week or even a month sometimes, but it takes a lot of digging to find the candidates the job openings that are out there now.
One of the things we're starting to hear from firms and maybe more so internal TA teams and HR than external firms is the candidates are now equipped with AI as well. And so, we talk about AI and automation all the time from a TA and a recruitment landscape, but candidates are equipped with all of the same tools and technologies in AI and automation. Are you seeing candidates using that stuff in their interactions with your team, whether their resumes are more optimized or their cover letters are, more robust and complete, that they didn't used to send cover letters, now they do because it's click of a button? Are you seeing any of this from candidates on your?
No, it's funny. We haven't noticed. And I think I shared with you before, I just think, AI is still a controversial kind of subject. Do you not? Do you not? Sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish they would help the resume but we haven't noticed a ton of it. That's for sure. As far as on the candidate side, some of the tools that we have It helps us just with our write-ups for Honeit now with that push of the button. We get that, it's everything that we already talked about, but it's formatted now nicely so that it's easy to read. And, there's things like that that help us. But when people are against it or they push back, I'm like, okay, same thing. When the internet came out, when, it's just technology, the next level of technology, when we had cell phones, when we had internet, when we had, whatever the next tool is. And I just feel like this is the next tool for the technology side of the business, and it's just going to keep growing from here. But I haven't, it's helped us a little, just like I said, more than anything, things like that, just a click of a button that they will do the write up. But
not seeing candidates kind of like complicate things or,
not yet. I haven't yet.
or fake them. Okay. That's great to
Yeah,
hear.
we haven't noticed it yet. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish they would use that to
You would know.
help the resume a little bit, but no, we haven't noticed it yet.
So since you don't have to do a lot of like outbound business development like many recruiters do, it's kind of some teams, some companies we work with or talk to, like recs have dried up a bit, right? And so then they're in biz dev mode trying to stand out to employers and show how they're different than the next agency and why they can provide more value or better candidates or do it in a better way. Maybe since you aren't doing as much business development mode, how else are you kind of standing out, differentiating, competing, with other firms who might be competing for the same clients or competing for candidates?
Well, and how we've grown up to this point is organically. When I say we don't have business development, we just recently, some of our recruiters wanted that full desk recruitment. So they'll start doing some outreach now just based off of candidates they already have in a certain market, and they'll reach out. Or if they're networking and they're talking to a CFO, do you, and it didn't work out for this particular role. Well, do you have any needs for an accounting needs at your firm, or, just different things that we're, now, before we were in survival mode, so we couldn't take on more business, and now we can. And so we're starting to slowly get into it. But what had happened before is like, my motto is I love competition. So I don't care if you work with 3 or 4 or 5 agencies. We will out recruit them and we'll show you. And so in markets, major markets, we've shown them and they get impressed and they're like, no, we only want to use you. So I don't even ask for exclusiveness. I just want to, I love that we get to prove ourselves and we have that competition. So that's how we grew. So say the HR manager left and she went to a new company, she'll bring us with her, or, that type of thing. So we really don't have a lot of, competition with the clients we're already in, just because we're such an extension of them. But we are definitely looking to diversify, because you read the papers, you listen to the news, you're like, it does look like could be some scary times ahead. So we're always looking to grow and looking to add on clients. And we have the bandwidth right now to do so. But we can always, continue to grow and just do it with like the excellence model that we've already done.
Have you tried? You talked a little bit about the kind of the candidate marketing or the MPC. Have you tried any MPC candidate marketing in Honeit where you hide the names and photos, but you can still share some insights to?
No, yeah, it's
okay.
No, but it's so funny that you say that, because what we did when we were trying to, we had a new client approach us, and well, it was a person that was at a former client, and they wanted to bring us along with them. We did. We saw some of their job openings, and we already had the meeting scheduled with them, but wanted to show them, Honeit as a tool and show them how we used it. But of course, didn't want to give all the contact information until they signed the agreement. So we did do that, and it was a very cool presentation to show them how we differentiate. But I was talking to my team, like, we should do more of that. Honeit, I think when you're super excited about a candidate and we find out at the end, oh, they've already applied directly. Oh, I'm like, a lot of times on those Honeits, they'll send them to me and or send it to the team and just say, hey, look at this candidate. If you know of anything, let's place them somewhere. But I'm like, we could start doing something with some of those candidates.
Yeah. Remarket or runner up. Yeah.
We've already done the work. And so I'm like, why not?
Have you started doing anything with your intake calls, like when you talk to a hiring manager about a job? Are you having those calls and capturing insights from any of those intake or kickoff calls? Um,
So we would love to do more of it. We've done a couple. The only problem is most of our relationship has to do with HR managers, and they're like sometimes they're like, I just run with it. They're so busy.
sure.
But the few times that we've had those uh, hiring manager meetings. We've used Honeit, and we've only used it internally. We haven't shared it, and one thing I really liked when I first heard your presentation is like you can also show the candidate, who the hiring manager is by their little. But we haven't done that yet. But we've shared it just so internally we can hear and re-listen to what the hiring manager says. And sometimes you're writing notes, same thing with candidates, but hiring managers as well. You're writing notes and you're like, did he say this? What did he say? And so what did she say about this, or this? So we've used that tool just internally so we can re-listen. Oh, yeah. What
Yeah,
did
just alignment as a team. That a lot of companies, yeah, just keep it within, but it's a way for, account manager to have that call and then share the insights, say with a recruiter sourcer or multiple
yeah.
recruiters who don't have to all be on the same call, and that's an expensive call. So that's
Yeah.
great. That's fantastic. Where do you see things going, right? Like in the recruitment world, with AI and automation, it's hard to ignore. So I don't want to bombard the conversation with AI, but like, is AI going to replace us, or is AI going to help us do better job? Is it going to help our clients make better hires? Where do you stand on kind of the next, say, 3 to 10 years of what does recruitment and TA look like? Are we doing the same thing? Is it going to be different? Like, what's your take on the future?
My opinion, like I said before, I just feel like it's a tool, just like when Indeed came out or ZipRecruiter, like they're going to eliminate recruiters. And I'm like, I think it has helped us so much as recruiters. I just don't think you'll ever be able to take that human element out. And AI is awesome. I'm not against AI, but I know there's other tools that are similar to Honeit, but it's just an AI calling. If I get some of those calls, I hang up on them. I don't have time for it. You can see that it's AI. You can tell that it's AI. And I'm like, I don't have the time or patience for that. But I think there's still so much that is the human element that you can't ever replace. I don't care what role it is. There's so much that over and over and over we see that you can't, technology can enhance all that, but it's not going to be able to replace. And sometimes, and we say this over and over and over, and it proves itself true over and over and over. There is the gut instinct that you have to, there's just something that is, it could be either way with a candidate, but that recruiter has that gut instinct, like something's off. And I don't know what it is, but something's off. And they can look ideal on paper. And then you do some digging and you realize they're not the right fit. Or it could be something like they don't look perfect on paper, but some gut feeling is saying this is the candidate for the role. So I just don't think AI could ever replace that. Like that instinct, I almost compare it to a mom instinct. Like doctors can't replace that mom's intuition. Same thing for AI. It's never going to be able to have that gut instinct. Like this is what makes a good candidate. This what doesn't. So.
Have you had any situations where, again, you see it, we talk to candidates all day, and like sometimes their resume is a 5 or 6 out of 10, yet you have that call with them and you're like, oh, this person could be great, or it's exactly what the client needs, but have you ever seen success because you have that instinct, you know what your client wants, you push back on them, and you know, they consider those high potential or transferable skills that are typically hard to communicate or articulate?
Yes, for sure. And that trust, I think that's why we feel like having that client focused model has been so helpful, is because we have that. My dog's just fluffing around. We have that whole. Yeah, what I was saying. Uh, Oh, yeah, that relationship with that client, we reserve it. We don't push back all the time. They might make something and we're like, we don't really agree with that, but we don't push back. But when we know that we know that we know they have to talk to this candidate, we use that, and we'll even say like, listen to this question, their answer on this Honeit, or look at this skill set, or I mean, this is exactly their would be the perfect culture fit. And these are the skills they have that are transferable skills. And they're open to reload on their own, or they're, there's different things that we have encouraged them to at least, and not every time's a win, but usually they respect us so much and we respect their time as well. We don't push back unless we're like, oh yeah, this is somebody you have to talk to. So I think that trust and rapport that's happened over the years is what has that mutual respect for both of us. Like, and that time, they'll know they can send us a job description and we don't have to have an intake call and we can run with it if they're too busy, because we know not only do they want requirements, but we know them and know that Bob is that hiring manager and what's he going to want, different things like that, I think, and then hone it, the respect of like, okay, we're only going to submit good quality candidates to them. We can skip phone interviews. We've had a lot of them that they'll just have a face-to-face interview. They've liked them so much that they bring them in by listening to their Honeit. So that's
wow. I love that. It's like, it when you hear it, your client well enough that when you present a candidate, they don't have to re-screen them two more times to invite them. You're sharing data and evidence so they can hear it and then they can expedite next steps. That really does cut down steps and cut down cycles, right? In terms of spreading out this 8-week process. No. Let's boom, boom, boom. Get this started.
Yeah, we even had one of our clients. I mean, they're a global manufacturer. They even were so impressed with Honeit and loved it so much. Like, we're even going to use that for our internal talent acquisition. They had some resistance to buy in internally, but part of it was their direct labor. Sometimes those Honeits don't come across as easily, but I'm like, well, it's just the same thing as a phone interview. So we changed our model and we now are using Honeit for all our levels, every level of role. Because I'm like, okay, that's the same as a phone interview. And okay, that's what they're going to say on a phone interview. Let's, make sure why not cut them out now before we bring them in. So I think part of it is just, having that transparency, letting them hear what we hear. I just think that also helps with, the trust and relationship, because it's like they trust us when we write down, what we say, or our feeling about this candidate. But now they get to hear it firsthand. They get to hear the responses, what we hear. And so I think that just they get to see what we're excited about, or why we're really pushing for them to set up an interview. So
I love it. Lisa, do you have any big goals for 5-star, say the remainder of 2024 or into 2025? Are there any big initiatives about, or what do you?
One of our goals was to put everyone on Honeit. Like I said, at first we were not doing them for direct labor. But the more that we talked about it, we're like, we could see the value in that. So we switched. That was one of the goals this year. And then we do want to grow and diversify. Like I said, it was chaos. It slowed down. So we got some processes and procedures set up. And now we're ready to grow in a healthy way. And so new clients, bringing on new clients and growing and having these processes in place now, I think that will help us be able to scale without, some of the stresses of being in the middle of chaos and not being able to keep up before. So we're excited and we want to diversify. We love different markets, and we have recruiters that have passion for, we have a CPA, inactive CPA with an MBA. He loves finance roles. Like, that was his background. He was a controller before. He loves all those roles. So he specializes in that. We have people who were in sales in their background, or they just have such passion to recruit for sales and they talk too much. I don't like recruiting for sales. And I was one of them. But we have people that specialize in each of those areas, but then they all work together and then they'll collaborate with each other. Oh, this is a good candidate for your role and that role. And so it's all about making the client happy, not this aggressive, competitive environment. So I think that the clients notice a difference. It's all about speed, quality, and excellence. And I think Honeit has been a great tool. I'm not just you told me I don't have to talk about it at all, but I really do think Honeit is a big one for us to be able to portray all of those things and put them together as a perfect presentation. So now they all look the same, even if it's coming from 10 different recruiters, all of them have that same presence. So I think that has helped us as well, with our branding, so that, that's our look. We have a link, and you click on that link and all of the write-ups look the same.
Awesome. Well, Lisa, where can people get a hold of you if they want to work with you or tap into your recruitment service?
Yeah, I would love to. We'd love to grow. Like I said, we have different spaces, banking. We have different spaces other than manufacturing, and we want to diversify. Our recruiters have some healthcare extensive experience as well, so we want to diversify. So our website's kind of hard. It's 5-star-recruiting.com. So it's kind of hard. It was just, little did I know, there were so many 5-star recruitings when I started it, but I started my business in 2 days, and I have 5 kids. So that's where it came from. The 5 stars or the 5 kids. So that's hard. And that was the only domain name I could come up with. Or call our office. Our contact information's on there, and great admin team, and great team that could, like I said, almost any perm. And we also do contract as well, for certain like workers' comp codes and things like that. So,
well, appreciate you being on the podcast. We've really enjoyed working with you and your team. Everybody's great. We can tell you're putting together, a wonderful recruitment org. So we could see that. But thank you for joining the podcast. Come back anytime. And everybody, Lisa Keigley with 5-Star Recruiting.
Thank you.